Hi, friends. We know that a poem is known for its literary device. We have already an idea about the literary device and strategy that the poet takes resort to compose his poem. We can say that a poem is better known for the technique that the poet uses while composing a poem. So, a poem is a kind of technical composition which is not possible by an ordinary people to compose. Now, this technical composition is reflected in terms of figure of speech and rhyming and meters. So, these are special features which are present in almost all great poems. Here we can see that the poem The Soldier by Rupert Brooke has also some special features in terms of literary device that the poet has used in this particular poem. So we are just going to um, think about the process of technical device that the poet has used in this poem to compose it, because it can give us more pleasure. Yes, when you are reading a poem, it is enjoyable, all because of technical aspect. The poem is just imprinted in our mind very easily because of its literary device. And here we should notice that it straightway goes to the heart of the people for its rhyme, for its device that the poet has used. Now, I this time is going to find out the technique of caesura, which the poet has used in line 3 of this poem. You know, as it happens to music, that to give melody, to give beauty to music, the singer is going to just make a silence at a certain note. While just they are singing in tala, which just says about the division of the um, just uh, uh, swaraj that the singer is using. And when there is a khali, a kind of vacant sound, actually no sound is used, we see that it has its great effect on the listener's mind. Naturally, we find when just a poet is writing just a poem, so he makes a powerful pause with a view to impressing upon the reader. Here we can say in the line 3, using Sephora, the poet has just shown the significance of the soldier's home, nation, about England. We have already found that the poet has a great love for his home nation, England. So, stopping just in line 3, he has shown that kind of affection for his homeland. It is just taken from Greek and Latin verse. Here we can notice that there is a breakdown between words within a metrical foot. In modern words also, there is a pause near middle of a line. So it depends upon the stress area that the poet has in the mind where he is using sephora. So naturally, you can say that sometime no sound, no word or stopping also is essential to give more impressive just idea about the thought that the poet has already had in his mind. Now we are coming to the next point which we can notice in the poem, that is metaphor. We always know that it is most used technique that the poet uses in his poem. Now the speaker compares his own body to the earth's soil. His body is nothing but the earth's soil, because his body is made of British soil. So how can he make a differentiation between his body and the British soil? So everything that his body contains is all due to the British soils. So it is that very idea, although we know that his body is not a British soil physically speaking. These are two separate identities. They are two separate realities. That a body of a person cannot be his nation's soil. But he wants to say that his significance as an individual cannot be recognized without recognition of his national identity. A man is just a sum total of his national identity. So when we stand just as a citizen, we stand with this, the nation's identity. It is why he says metaphorically that his body is earth's soil, that he compares his body with earth's soil, and he does not find that there is any difference at just internal level. So earth soil is his body and his body is earth soil, but in final analysis we find that these two things remain two different things. But here, to create an impression or create just the intensity of his love for his motherland, he is just comparing his own body to earth soil. We also know that he is a part of England. His death will reach the land where he dies. It is what just the unification is, that he has unified his existence with the what he can call British identity. So wherever he goes, the British identity goes with him. When he is in England, there he is known for his British identity. But when he is in foreign land, there too he is known for his British identity. So they are mingled in such a way that we cannot just extract one from other. So when he dies in foreign land, that land itself becomes richer, all because of the fact that his body is made of British soil. And so the soil falls even in the foreign land when his body falls. So that piece of land also becomes richer, and it also becomes an English one. So this is what an extended form of metaphor is that the poet has used in this way. So we can say it will infuse it with the same Englishness. So Englishness is just very much traveling with Rupert Brooke, or the soldier who is speaking, or who is the speaker of this poem. So in line 4, between rich and richer about England in Englishness as rare and precious material, we find that that Englishness is very much expressed by the very much physical existence of the soldier or the speaker or the poet. And so he is always looking at himself metaphorically, that he is nothing but English. That sense of Englishness is everything for him, and he cannot stand without the identity of Englishness. Now, we find that when we are talking about the sound pattern, it is either alliteration and assonance which play a very dominant role because it is the sound that makes something attractive. It is really the sound that creates a kind of music on the mind and the heart of the poet, or in the mind of the heart of the listener as well and the reader as well. Because here the very much musicality is associated with the sound. In music too, we find that it is always the play of sounds that musician does. Either just when a singer sings, he is singing in form of sounds. So lyrics is very much behind, but actually that lyrics is set with the sounds in terms of the scale of the song. And so here we find that it has a very special charm of the sound created by the musician and the singer. Here too, the poet, while writing the poem, is going to use vowel and consonant sounds so cleverly, so artistically, that it here also creates a kind of musical charm on the reader. Because here too you find in terms of when we are speaking in terms of sound. So the language that you use while speaking is nothing but the bundle of sounds that we use. And we find that there are some patterns of sounds which are kept into the poem. So, through alliteration or by repetition of the consonant sounds, the poet tries to create a kind of musicality. And here we find the lines 1 to 3. The poem uses th and fa sounds. Here we find that these th and fa sounds are repeated and repeated, as in music. Just we are repeating the sounds, we are repeating the scales, we are repeating the meters, and we are coming back to the same scale, same meters, wherefrom we have started singing. That is what a cyclical order of music is going on. Likewise, here you find that when the poet has used or repeatedly used thaw and fa sounds, a cyclical order of sound system is very much made. So in the lines, if I should die, think only this of me. Here you find that think and this. Here we can say that thaw sound is here, that is consonant repeated, that there's some corner of a foreign field. We find once again in that and there, thaw sounds are repeated, so they are rhymed. Foreign and filled, here for sound is repeated, so they are rhymed. That is for ever England. That once again is rhymed with that theirs, and for is also rhymed with foreign field. So here we find in these lines there is a repetition of thaw and fa sounds under the just a strategy of alliteration. Now, in line 4 also you find that rich alliterates with richer. The raw sound, the same raw sound is repeated in rich and richer. And so, when you are speaking the same consonants again and again, like rich and richer, we find that it creates a kind of musicality here. And here we can just take notice of the repetition of both sounds into the lines, a body of England's breathing English era. Here both body and both breathing are rhymed together, washed by the rivers. Once again, that voyage of by is rhymed, and blessed by sons of home. And here in blessed and by, we still find that both sound is repeated and both sound is hence rhymed. So the sounds have been rhymed, raw sound has been rhymed, and both sound has also been rhymed. into just the thing. So it is a kind of rhyming also, and it is a kind of alliteration also, because here we find that a kind of musical composition appears while repetition of all these sounds, and it is what is known as alliteration. And we should talk about the poem is talked about for its form also. We have earlier discussed also that this sonnet is just formed in Shakespearean's design and in Petrarchan version. So, sonnet has been just devised by William Shakespeare. Also, he has also developed a technique of writing sonnets, or just he has made just a 14-line composition divided into three quatrains, having 4 line each and a couplet at last. And so, this is what the technique of Shakespearean sonnet is, and Petrarch has also divided or developed a kind of sonnet form divided into octave and sestet. So these are two different kinds of sonnet forms that most often you find in English literature used by the poet. Here you find that Rupert Brooke has used both forms of sonnet, Shakespearean as well as Petrarchan. So we can say the first stanza follows the rhyming scheme. Here it is not only the composition of a stanza that is important while we are talking about the sonnet. Yes, we have discussed the composition of both types of forms, but rhyming pattern is also different. We find that rhyming pattern of Shakespearean just a sonnet is different from rhyming pattern of Petrarchan version. So when you are just taking into account first stanza of this poem, you find that it follows the rhyme scheme of Shakespearean sonnet, and the second stanza follows the rhyme scheme of Petrarchan sonnet. So structurally, we can say that this poem is closer to Petrarchan sonnet, and because we find that it has been divided into octave, 8-line stanza, and sestet, 6-line stanza. Now we should just make a discussion on the meter also, that the poet has used the number of syllable in a line, and how that syllable has been composed in terms of stressed and unstressed syllable. We know that also plays a very dominant role just when you are talking about the metrical composition of the poem. So it is written into formal metrical verse, or we can say that number of syllable is just to be taken into account, and so it is a typical sonnet, but your meter form is named as iambic pentameter, that the line has been divided into 5 feet with an unstressed stress level pattern. Now, so we can just take the example of the line that if I should die, think only this of me. So we count the number of syllables used. We find that there are 10 syllabi. So one and they have been divided into 5 feet. Each foot contains 2 syllabi. First is unstressed, second is stressed. So in first foot we find if is unstressed, I stressed, should die. Unstressed, stressed, and think on, just unstressed, stressed, leave this, unstressed, stressed, of me, unstressed, stressed. So this is the way that the line has been composed into iambic pentameter. Now we can just talk about line 4. That is also an example of iambic pentameter with sponge sounds, that you find a metrical unit with stressed syllabi. Here, when we are talking about spongy sounds, we do not follow an unstressed stress pattern. Here, the pattern is little bit altered, and it is just a stressed pattern that comes. We can just take into account line 4, and here find in that reach earth. Here in the second foot we find that there are two syllabi, one is rich, another is earth, but they are stressed. It is not the pattern as you earlier find in first line, that is unstressed stress pattern. So rich is also stressed, earth is also stressed. So this is what, although lineage in pentameter, that they are 5 feet, in rest of the foot we find the same unstressed stress pattern is followed, except in foot number 2, where both the syllabi are stressed. So in that, here unstressed stress, reach, earth stressed stressed, or reach unstressed stressed, or dust unstressed stress, concealed unstressed stress. So it is in this way we can say that line for age just definitely written into iambic pentameter, but there is a sporadic sounds here. Oh no, there is a purpose that he is attaching a special Britishness to the part of the foreign land where the soldier dies. It is why he says that part of the earth is getting richer and richer and richer. That is very much intention, that he wants to highlight the significance of the British land and British culture and British trust, which is carrying with the poet himself and the soldier itself. And just the pulse and the soldier, wherever he goes, carries that sense of or influence of or influence of England and Englishness. So, in terms of rich earth, that is a kind of just a central idea of his mind. So, just if the soldier dies in India, here India itself becomes England, or he dies in Nepal, Nepal itself becomes England, and so India just becomes richer, all due to his body lying there. And what is the that is the sense of that spongy sounds, the two adjacent stresses of rich earth for purification or to increase strength. A speaker's body will make the soil English wherever it dies. That is what the purpose is of using that kind of stress meter pattern. Now we can also say that it is here very much important part that we are playing with and we are going to talk about. So now we are just going to make it finish, and we can say that we have no other part to take into account, and we have just to talk about just a rhyming scheme as well. Before we are going to make it over, we should talk about rhyme scheme, because we know that this sonnet has two sonnet tradition. Shakespearean rhyme scheme in the octave is found, and a Petrarchan rhyme scheme in sestus is found. Now in octave, Shakespearean rhyme scheme is just found in the way that is AB, AB, CD, CD. There are 8 lines here. So the first and third lines are rhymed, and the second and the fourth just lines are rhymed. So it is AB, AB, and fifth and the seventh lines are rhymed, and sixth and the eighth lines are rhymed. So here the very much rhyming pattern is on Shakespearean scheme, that is AB, AB, CD, CD. It is very much clear, formal, stately sounding rhetoric that you find into octave. An idealized poem, here we can say that it is very much just the idea that the poet tries to convey. So it is not the negative sense of the just death of the soldier that we find elsewhere in the war poetry. So this is the ideal stature of a soldier that poet is just expressing through this poem, and it is full with idyllic or beautiful perfection. Now, the sestet is very much formed after Petrarchan scheme of rhyming, that is AB, CA, BC. So you find here the first line is rhymed with the fourth line, the second with the fifth line, and the third with the sixth line. So ABC, ABC. So this is what the rhyming scheme is here. It is soft sounding feminine rhyme, or just we can say that just or a rhyme stress level followed by rhymed unstressed syllable. It is what the feminine rhyme is. So a stress syllable, a rhymed stress syllable. A rhymed stress syllable is followed by rhymed unstressed syllable, as in given heaven. Or this rhyme has a gentleness or heavenly paradise. That is what the idea is there, that England is a heavenly paradise, that the poet wants to convey that idea, and gentleness of England is also to be conveyed. So he has taken use of feminine rhyme into that way. So we can say that this poem is just taking perfect or full rhyme. Slant rhyme is also very much used. So when we are talking about perfect rhyme, you can say that it is exact or true rhyme in which stressed vowel sounds in both the words are identical. The same kind of, which has the same pronunciation pattern. We can say the sky and high, I, and that is diphthongs which are found into sky and high. So this kind of rhyming is just a perfect rhyming, because here the vowel sound which has been used in both the words are identical. I, and sky, light, high, light. So here we find light in light, light, vowel is just rhymed, and in sky and high also I vowel is just found here. So they are strictly known as true rhymes or exact rhyme. So in slant rhyme, words have similar but not identical sounds. So we can say it is not either identical consonants, or it is formed by either identical consonants or different vowels, or vice versa, like in orm and swarm. So in orm we find o and swam. So these are two different vowel sounds that you find here. So vowel sounds are different, and so orm, swam. So here we can say that consonant is identical, and so there is little bit rhyming, but we find that yes, identical consonants but two different vowel sounds, or sometimes you can find that there are just two different vowel sounds and identical consonants. So in this way this slant rhyme is formed. So in the poem we find slant rhymes. Two sounds are similar, like given and heaven, which have been deliberately made, and it is the purpose that we have already discussed. So we can find that it is the very much essential feature of the figure of speech, or the literary device that poet has used in this poem. Thank you for